Tonight, 7 people, including a child, killed in storms in southern Queensland. Also tonight, an Australian man and his family killed in an airstrike in Lebanon. The classic Aussie cars keeping remote Territorians on the road. And 2 boats in a tactical arm wrestle off Tasmania's coast as the Sydney to Hobart continues. Good evening, Eleni Roussos with ABC News. An Australian man, along with his wife and brother, have been killed by an airstrike in southern Lebanon. The 27-year-old was there to help bring his wife home to Sydney. He's the first Australian to be killed in Lebanon in the current conflict.
This video shows Ibrahim Bezzi and his wife Shuruq Hamoud in southern Lebanon just days ago. After Shuruq recently acquired an Australian visa, her 27-year-old husband flew over to bring her home.
He returned to Lebanon just to get his wife back to Sydney to start a new life.
But the couple didn't make it. Shuruq, Ibrahim, and his brother Ali were all killed in an airstrike overnight. Local media in Lebanon is reporting an Israeli missile hit the area. If confirmed, it would make Ibrahim the first Australian to be killed by Israeli forces since the start of the wider conflict in October. A spokesman for the family has described Ibrahim as a humble man, adding, "They're all devastated."
They're all very angry. They're all very angry to lose. Imagine that you lose one of your best friend or best neighbor.
Since October 7th, the Lebanese militia Hezbollah has been launching strikes on northern Israel in solidarity with Hamas. Cross-border exchanges of fire have become a daily occurrence, threatening to open up another front of the war.
We're in a multi-arena war. We are being attacked from 7 different fronts. Anyone who acts against us is a potential target. There is no immunity for anyone.
We are here sitting now in a peaceful place in Sydney, but our fellows in Lebanon are sitting under the attack of the Israelis on a daily basis.
Ibrahim and Ali's parents are still in Lebanon. Family here say they're worried about their safety. Nabil Nashar, ABC News, Sydney.
Israel is insisting it will see through its mission to dismantle Hamas, no matter how long it takes. Tensions are spreading across the region, with the Israeli military reporting attacks not only from Lebanon, but also Syria, Iraq and Yemen. The Palestinian president is warning the occupied West Bank could implode at any moment.
Far from the front line of Gaza, Israeli troops destroy an explosive laboratory on the outskirts of the West Bank, claiming to have found dozens of weapons inside. Nearby refugee camps were also raided by Israeli forces. Summer said he was sleeping when the IDF stormed the camp and evicted families from their homes.
I don't know why they did that. I don't belong to any organisation, and I'm not affiliated with the Palestinian Authorities.
6 people were killed, according to local health authorities, bringing the total number of those killed in the West Bank since October 7 to more than 300. Israel has been conducting near-nightly raids across the occupied territory in what it describes as counter-terrorism operations.
There are fears of this war not only expanding but extending too, with the Israeli military's chief of staff declaring the war will continue for many more months as its forces broaden operations in central and southern Gaza.
In Gaza's southernmost town of Rafah, an Israeli airstrike leaves behind a wasteland. Al-Mawasi, an area declared as a safe zone by Israel, suffered the majority of the 250 deaths reported across the Strip today. In response, Israel's military said it will operate wherever it identifies activity threatening the security of Israel. Collecting, let alone identifying the dead, is near impossible in Gaza. Israel returned bodies it says it recovered from northern Gaza to Palestinian officials.
The smell is unbearable. We can't open it here because of the spread of disease in the neighbourhood.
Away from residential areas, a mass burial is being prepared.
These martyrs are all unknown. We've been taking pictures in order to identify them later on.
80 Palestinians finally laid to rest. Alison Horn, ABC News, Jerusalem.
Queensland has been hit by deadly storms over the past 48 hours, with 7 deaths, including a child. 3 men have died after their annual Boxing Day boat trip turned to tragedy when the boat capsized off Brisbane's Moreton Bay with 11 friends on board. A 9-year-old girl has died after she was swept away in a flooded storm drain south of Brisbane overnight. Further north, near Noosa, the bodies of 2 women in their 40s were discovered in the Mary River, and a woman has died on the Gold Coast following a Christmas night tornado.
A second deadly night of ferocious storms lashed the southeast.
There it goes. There it goes.
Leaving destruction in its wake.
Seemed to be coming from all different directions at one point in time, and it was fairly significant.
The deadly deluge claiming the lives of 7 people, among them a 9-year-old girl in Roachdale.
Absolute tragedy. I'm not aware of the circumstances, but these storms, you've just got to be so careful.
Meanwhile, an annual Boxing Day fishing trip turned deadly off Moreton Bay. 2 men aged 48 and 69 were found dead in the water last night, and a third, a 59-year-old man, this morning.
Sadly, we lost 3. We could have lost 11. They're unpredictable, and unfortunately people underestimate how quickly these storms can come on. But these natural events, we can't control them.
The rescue operation has been dangerous and lengthy, with more than 20 crews trying to find those on board and recover the vessel before more extreme weather hits the southeast. But it's likely the boat will remain at sea tonight because of structural issues.
Further north, more heartache, with 2 women in their 40s dying after going missing in a storm drain on Boxing Day.
It is just a tragic set of circumstances, but it's particularly felt hard at this time of year when people would prefer to be spending time with their loved ones and family.
A 59-year-old woman was killed on Christmas night after being struck by a tree on the Gold Coast. The region was battered by storms 2 days in a row, cutting off communities. Thousands are still without power.
We've now activated the disaster hardship funding arrangements for the Gold Coast, so people on the Gold Coast affected by the disaster can apply.
The latest addition to Queensland's billion-dollar recovery bill from Mother Nature. Meg Bolton, ABC News, Brisbane.
The wild weather that's lashed Australia's east coast through the Christmas period has now claimed 10 lives. In Victoria, a man died after being struck by a falling branch in Gippsland, and this afternoon it was confirmed the bodies of 2 people who'd been camping together over Christmas at the Buchan campground in East Gippsland have been found. The Bureau believes the worst of the weather has now passed.
A close call for one woman and her pup. Maddie and Minka were rescued after the Staffy Cross jumped into the surging Werribee River.
If I wasn't able to somehow get her out of that water, I was probably going home without a dog today.
So she made a split-second choice.
I just kind of lost my mind and made the decision to go in the water.
But not everyone was so lucky. In the state's east, a man and a woman were found dead after flash flooding tore through the Buchan Caves campground. Police believe the pair were camping together.
I've never seen the main street of Buchan with the water coming down like it did, and the damage that it's done to so many places. It's unbelievable, really.
Further south in Welshpool, residents and businesses start the clean-up after a devastating 24 hours.
The river just came straight through Welshpool.
Others were grateful that things didn't get worse.
It's water, it's not fire, and we're here.
Businesses in Elmore still without drinkable water after a treatment plant broke down on Christmas Day.
Today would have been massive. The sales we would have
we've lost today are quite substantial.
Poor water quality is also affecting Melbourne. St Kilda Beach is normally packed this time of year, but today there are few swimmers after the EPA warned people to stay out of the ocean between Altona and Elwood due to stormwater pollution. While the weather is easing, residents in central Victoria are being told to stay on flood alert. Tamara Clark, ABC News.
Alice Springs town crier Meredith Campbell is known for spreading joy in her outback community. 6 months ago, her world was turned upside down when she started suffering severe depression with psychosis. But she says a little-known therapy has changed everything.
It's a sunny morning in Alice Springs, and town crier Meredith Campbell is out and about doing what she loves most.
Welcome to Alice Springs, Mobantawala.
She says it still feels surreal. Just 6 months ago, she was in the darkest place she's ever been.
Struggling with having a shower, struggling with making a cup of tea, struggling with answering the telephone or answering a text if people were wondering where I was.
Meredith's mental health started deteriorating in May this year, leading to a diagnosis of severe depression with psychosis.
One of the principal negative thoughts was that I would become infectious, and so I couldn't have contact with other people outside of my family.
After attending the emergency department 4 times, she was mandated to receive electroconvulsive therapy, or ECT.
All I knew of ECT was what you see on popular movies from 50 years ago, when people who do receive it against their will bite on a length of leather, say their last prayers and hope they're not going to die.
Electroconvulsive therapy involves passing a carefully controlled electric current through the brain while the patient is under anaesthetic, essentially rewiring it. Experts say the modern-day procedure is safe and effective in relieving severe symptoms of depression and psychosis.
The fact that ECT can very powerfully reset this, we think is very useful.
Meredith says after just 10 sessions, she's seen a startling transformation.
I'm back to swimming, I'm back to exercising, I'm back to engaging with my people.
Many experts say there's still widespread stigma around ECT, which is only being worsened by online misinformation.
And it's a vicious circle that because it's stigmatized, people don't want to say they've had it and had a great experience.
Hi, Meredith. Hi.
But Meredith is working to spread the word, saying it's been life-saving.
I think the future is going to look rosy and bright.
Hopes her story can make a difference. Charmaine Allison, ABC News, Alice Springs.
Australian chef Bill Granger has died aged 54 in a London hospital with his family by his side. Granger was born in Melbourne but launched his remarkable career in Sydney before taking it to the world. He was a self-taught cook who became one of the most successful food writers and restaurateurs Australia has ever produced, along with a special claim to fame. Ben Knight reports.
Many chefs dream of creating a phenomenon. Few achieve it, but Bill Granger did.
It's hard to believe such a simple dish, avocado on toast, has become such a cultural signifier of a whole generation.
He took simple and made it really good.
It was in his first cafe in Darlinghurst when he was a 22-year-old art school dropout. It wasn't allowed to open in the evenings, so he stuck to breakfast and brunch.
There's an old expression, the person that gets up early owns the day.
I love that.
Bill Granger seized the day. His first cookbook is credited with taking Australian cafe culture to the world.
Many of the guys who are doing good food in cafes now really have, Bill to thank for trailblazing that.
He and his wife Natalie built an empire while building a family. 5 TV series, 12 cookbooks, and restaurants all over the world, including in the city where it all began.
The legacy, like all the cookbooks, the restaurant chain, so sad that he's passed away.
Really shocked, he's so young.
His friend Jamie Oliver said, "I loved Bill Granger so much. He had an extraordinary ease and style in cooking that could only come from Australia." Nigella Lawson said she was heartbroken. There are no right words when what's happened is so wrong.
That sort of sunny disposition, that smile and that level of happiness that he always managed to bring into a room really sort of said a lot about what Bill was all about.
And what he brought to his food.
It's fresh and sunny, Australian cafe classics, and that's me on a plate.
Bill Granger was 54.
Shoppers flooded retail outlets in the NT's major shopping centres on Boxing Day, expecting to part with more than $200 million in the post-Christmas sales. But as cost of living pressures continue to bite, not all businesses are reaping the benefits.
This is Boxing Day at the Territory's biggest shopping centre.
Packed. I've just come down just to check it out, just to see what's going on. Can't believe how packed it is.
Thousands of shoppers evaded heatwave conditions in Darwin to snag a bargain, rushing retail staff off their feet.
Today has been really busy. The foot traffic outside is crazy. Not enough space to go around.
We're buying shoes and like earrings and like chains and
we got spending money from family.
The Australian Retailers Association estimates sales on Boxing Day would hit $1.25 billion across the country, up 1.6% on last year. In the NT, shoppers are expected to spend $215 million in the post-Christmas sale, slightly more than last year, despite cost of living pressures and economic turbulence.
We definitely like spending more money than we usually do.
Boxing Day bringing out the bargain hunters, with many delaying their purchases to save in the sales.
Got some fidgets.
Some fidgets and some stuff for me being games. Yeah. Things are getting expensive at the moment, so just come in, make the most of it, buy a few little things that we need.
But while queues snaked out the doors of the major retailers, smaller businesses weren't able to offer the same bargains.
We're pretty dead. I went around and had a chat to the local businesses and basically nothing.
As the cost of living crisis bites, this Darwin business owner says people can't afford to support local even if they wanted to.
The price of living is just crazy. Everything's gone up. Even our ingredients to make these gourmet marshmallows have gone up. So our prices had to go up as well, which have impacted our sales.
Boxing Day bargains, more important than ever for most. Roxanne Fitzgerald, ABC News.
The Northern Territory's commercial fishing body says it's negotiating with traditional owners in Arnhem Land to reopen coastal waters after recreational anglers raised concerns about an increase in commercial boats in areas favoured by recreational fishers. Indigenous traditional owners closed some coastal waters to commercial fishing in September over concerns about gill netting and bycatch. The NT's Amateur Fishermen's Association is calling on the government to consider setting commercial catch quotas and consider more buybacks of barramundi licences. The Seafood Industry Council says it's in talks to reopen closed fishing areas.
Negotiations and access arrangements are still underway with traditional owners to reach long-term access arrangements, and the recreational sector is sitting at the table as part of the barramundi fishery management going forward. So everyone's involved in making sure that we have a continued sustainable fishery.
Once considered part of the fabric of the Australian automotive landscape, Holden Commodores and Ford Falcons have seen a sharp decline in ownership since the makers of the iconic vehicles ceased production. But in some remote Aboriginal communities where long-distance travel on less than ideal roads is often required, the popularity of Aussie-made rigs has never been stronger.
When Valentine Palmer talks about his whip, he beams with pride.
I like the body, I like the sound, I like what's on here. It makes my feeling feel better.
His V6 manual Commodore is his connector to the far-flung corners of the Central Australian desert. In Aboriginal communities like Amungana, east of Alice Springs, the now discontinued Holden model is still the most popular choice of car. Alongside its main competitor, the Ford Falcon, also no longer manufactured, the two Australian-made relics have defied a trend seen elsewhere to switch over to newer alternatives. It's thanks in part to the abundance of spare parts available from local junkyards.
Look for the part that's broken on your car. Look on that car. If you have the part from your car is broken, you can get that part, put it on your car.
These parts have helped Lorenzo Williams beef up his 2004 Commodore and keep the wheels turning. The Amungana resident learned the art of mechanics from his dad.
He's always asking me for help all the time. Yeah. And he's always encouraging me to be a mechanic.
For longtime used car salesman Alan Thorpe, who's run his Alice Springs dealership for more than 4 decades, he knows all too well the popularity of Commodores and Falcons among his clients from out bush.
The local people don't want them. They want the flash with all the little trinkets on it and the extra comfort and the better braking and all that sort of stuff. So they're not looking for the same type of vehicle, you know, they're looking for comfort, speed, fuel economy, and out bush you're looking for reliability.
When you look after the car will look after you.
A familiar mantra for the rugged desert landscape. Lee Robinson, ABC News.
Super Maxi's Andrew Comanche and Law Connect are locked in a tactical arm wrestle off Tasmania's east coast as the Sydney to Hobart yacht race continues. Much of the fleet was battered by wild weather overnight, resulting in a raft of retirements. And with more rough weather on the way, it's set to be a tough slog to the finish.
Blue skies and smooth sailing 1 minute, wet, wild and windy the next as the weather turned on the Sydney-Hobart fleet overnight.
Yeah, we've had a little bit of everything. In fact, the wildest was like literally 180-degree wind shifts. Been pretty wild.
Law Connect at the front of the pack in a one-on-one duel with fellow Maxi Comanche for line honours, both fighting the weather as well as each other.
We're playing cat and mouse all night long.
A tactical battle that's expected to continue right into the River Derwent.
I think it was 7 seconds was the closest finish in the past. Imagine if we got that again.
The 103-strong fleet was cut down to 94 as of this evening. Line honours contender Scallywag forced out of the race with a broken bowsprit, while the tiny two-hander Currawong also had to turn back after suffering damage. Rum Rebellion returned safely to Sydney too, but not without some overnight drama. Both crew members okay, despite a freak wind gust sending one overboard.
A bit bruised and sore, and they're back in Sydney and drinking rum.
Last night's light show was terrifying as it was awe-inspiring. And with a southerly change on its way, there's potentially more pain in store for the bulk of the fleet.
There's strong winds because there's a low going coming through, so those are very strong winds. But on top of that, you have these electrical storms, and when they hit, they actually change the wind from the direction it's going.
A slow crawl to Hobart for those still standing.
Inspired bowling from captain Pat Cummins has given Australia the edge on day 2 of the second test against Pakistan at the MCG. Pakistan fought hard during the first 2 sessions before Cummins led by example with 3 wickets.
Pakistan came out with a spring in its step and made an early breakthrough.
Edged, taken.
Marnus Labuschagne brought up a patient half-century while Mitch Marsh was in a hurry.
He was waiting for it, didn't wait long, Mitchell Marsh, he knew it was coming.
The tourists didn't allow Australia to build momentum thanks to an improved effort in the field.
An absolute beauty here, Mohammad Rizwan.
Marsh's aggressive approach brought about his undoing as Pakistan targeted Australia's captain.
Oh, awkward. Very, very awkward.
But the wayward visitors conceded 52 sundries.
It's almost outrageous.
The home team went down swinging and made 318.
And that is a really good running catch out there.
The Pakistani openers were living dangerously.
It's a tough one.
And Australia's greatest off-spinner wouldn't be denied.
Got him! Nathan Lyon strikes!
The crowd paid tribute to the late MCG favourite Shane Warne, but captain Shan Masood wasn't showing Lyon the same respect.
Wow, that's good for the action.
Abdullah Shafiq also made an impression.
And that is a half-century for Abdullah Shafiq.
Travis Head conducted the fans in the outer. And Pat Cummins called the shots in the middle with a double strike. Masood fell for 54 as Lyon had the last laugh.
He does come down, and it's led to his demise.
The final session fight back was bearing fruit.
Oh, it's a peach.
It was good at the end there to get a few big wickets and felt like we're well into their order now.
Pakistan ended the day 124 runs behind Australia with 4 wickets in hand. Duncan Huntsdale, ABC News.
And time for the weather now, and Joydip Roy is starting us off tonight with this pic taken at gunpoint east of Darwin. Very hot again across the territory with isolated falls in the northwest. Good rain on the Tiwi Islands. In Darwin, the dew point stayed high all day, making today's top of 35 degrees feel more like it was 40. Warm northerly winds crossed much of the territory today. It was especially hot in the far south, where the mercury soared to 42 degrees in Tennant Creek and Alice Springs. On the satellite, there's scattered storm clouds near the territory's border with WA and South Australia, and up north there's patchy cloud along the coast. Hot westerly winds dominate the territory's north, and a trough from WA is drawing those hot conditions into Central Australia. Interstate tomorrow, hot in Brisbane, 36 degrees, cloudy in Sydney, 31, possible showers for Adelaide, and warm in Perth. Daytime temps will be up in the south with tops of 43 degrees for Alice Springs, Tennant Creek and Yalara. Staying very hot across the north as well, 39 tomorrow for Katherine, Borroloola 40 and 35 for Nhulunbuy. Chance of storms in the west, a muggy 27 degrees for Darwin tonight, 35 the top tomorrow. Hot in Jabiru tomorrow with a top of 38 degrees. Severe to extreme heat wave conditions will persist across the Northern Territory tomorrow as daytime temperatures soar to the mid-40s over southern parts of the Northern Territory. There'll be a 6-metre high tide at 5:20 in the morning and a low tide over lunch. The sun will rise tomorrow at 6:21 and will go down around 7:15. And looking ahead for Darwin, hot days and nights with just a slight chance of rain over the next few days. In Alice Springs, very hot days continuing with an increasing chance of rain next week. And that's ABC News for this Wednesday night. Thank you for your company. Good night.